Today's show is brought to you by KegConnection.com. It's homebrew holiday deals over at KegConnection.com with 25% off homebrew kegerator kits, 25% off every homebrew keg when purchased with the kegging kit, and lots more site-wide deals like 15% off site-wide with promo code 15OFF. Head over to KegConnection.com and have a happy holiday homebrewing season.
Entertaining shows with content that spreads information and sparks discourse throughout the community. This is the Pearl Media Network.
Hello and welcome to the Homebrew Happy Hour. This is the show where we supply the answers to your homebrewing questions and discuss all things related to craft beer. If you have a question you'd like us to discuss on a future episode, visit homebrewhappyhour.com and click on the submit a question link at the top of the page, or now you can call or text them in by using 325-305-6107. I am your host, Joshua Stubing. Today, I am joined by the Director of Operations at cmbecker.com, right down there, Mr. James Carlson, as well as the President and Chief Keg Washer at KegConnection.com. Let me see there it is on the video, Mr. Todd Burns. We're doing the Brady Bunch view right now from what I see. So it's the three of us in a square. Everyone's happy. We are back from a fantastic trip. I think
absolutely.
If you don't follow us on social media, you don't know what I'm talking about necessarily, but we were just in Kansas City visiting a vendor. And when Todd told me, when was this trip planned, guys? Like a month ago? Like 6 weeks, give or take? It wasn't that long ago.
Well, it was planned 3 months ago, and then I had to have neck surgery, so we canceled it. And then we rebooked it, and I'm not sure how long ago that was.
Right.
About a month ago, I think.
Yeah, well, that's when you told me I was going. Sometimes I don't get informed of trips unless Todd's like, here's a bone, kid. Here's a bone. And so you told me about 3 or 4 weeks ago, and I'm not going to lie, when you first told me, hey, man, we're going to go to Kansas City, I said, are we? I don't know anything about Kansas City. I don't watch football. I know the Chiefs are their team, but I don't know anything about the city. I don't know a whole lot about Missouri in general, and I wasn't that enthusiastic. But I've got to say, extremely underrated city.
Yep.
Yes, it is. It's a fun city. I've been there a few times, and I think this time I had the most fun ever.
It was a blast. I mean, no fooling. I had such a good time. There was a lot to see. You know, because even though these are work trips, so my wife and family who are listening that don't think I have a real job as it is, it's a work trip. We had meetings, very, very fun, very productive. But when you're traveling, you have to set aside some time to go look at the local stuff, to go eat locally, to go experience the touristy things that a city might have. Because if you don't, then you become calloused to travel, and you don't want to do that. Like y'all, when you guys go to Germany, y'all have these great intense meetings in Dusseldorf, and then y'all enjoy the reason why Dusseldorf's amazing, which is the Altstadt, the beer, the food, and then y'all typically go to like a city that's in that area as well. Because in Europe, travel's like, let's hop on a train and we're in a different country in 2 hours or whatever. But Kansas City, I'd like to recap it just real quick. The highlights for me. One, I think Todd gained more weight than I did.
I did.
I gained a pound, and I told him that this morning. I said, dude, I don't want to admit this, but we got back. I gained a pound.
I gained 3 or 4 pounds.
That's what you told me. You said, I bet I gained more than that. And I almost wanted to bet you $5, but I didn't because I was with you, and I can vouch that I bet you gained more than a pound as well. We
continued to eat after you left as well.
Yes.
When did y'all do that? Yeah, so I had a morning flight. Y'all didn't leave until like 4. What did y'all eat? Did y'all pig out somewhere?
And we went to one of the coolest museums too. If anybody ever gets to Kansas City, it's the Arabia. It's a wreck, and it's a steamship that went down 130 something years ago, and in 1989 or 90 something, they dug it up, and it still had all the cargo, like 20 tons of car. Was it 200 tons?
200 tons. It's just hard to wrap your head around.
And
wait.
Storing all of it.
Y'all waited for me to leave, And then y'all went there.
But we went to the World War I museum with you.
I know. Well, I was going to say when you were saying we went to the cool museum, I was like, oh, I can relate. I was there with them. And then this is the first time I'm hearing about. You always save the fun stuff for James. You always save it for him.
We went to the
Federal Reserve.
Federal Reserve too, and did a. I have a picture.
I got a bag of money.
Yeah, $160 they gave us while we were there.
This isn't a political podcast, but I'm okay with not going to the Federal Reserve. I'm all right with that.
That's actually pretty cool. We got to see $40 million
in cash. I was stood in front of it.
Did you really? Yep. Did you get a photo?
Yep. James took a photo of me with my 40 mil, and then half mil of gold bar we got to hold.
Wait a second, no. James, did you put it on your Instagram?
No, I took it with Todd's phone.
Oh, okay. I was just saying, I'm just like going through Instagram. I didn't see it. I didn't see any of this. Y'all were really hiding it from me.
I don't know what this Instagram is. Y'all keep talking about.
It's on the interwebs, man.
It's just a fad. It's just a fad like the rest of the internet. Actually, I should give you access to the company, either Kegging or Homebrew Supplies. You would laugh. When we acquired Homebrew Supply, we got all the access to their social media and all that. The guy who was managing their Instagram, he was only following some very, what's the word I'm looking for? Seductive accounts. I don't know the right. As soon as I logged in, I was like, oh, thank God my wife's not around me. All it is scantily clad females, and by scantily I mean not wearing anything. That's all he was following on that page.
I think they call that naked.
They were, and more power to those accounts. And that guy, he's just a red-blooded American man. No hating there. Do whatever you want. But I was uncomfortable because I was, I get on Instagram all the time, just in my living room, managing it from there, like when we're watching TV. And I was like, I'm so glad this was not one of those times. My family's not around. I didn't have one of my children over my shoulders. Hey, what you doing, Dad? Like,
what's that?
I'm on the interwebs, kid. But yes, back to Kansas City. The World War I museum blew me away. I mean, it was so good.
Very nice.
So nice, so thorough. And that photo, you had mentioned it while we were walking. Like, I think this was when they opened the museum in whatever year they did. It was the first time that all the major commanders of World War I, generals.
They're like the commanding generals, the main generals from each country were there. Well, the ones that won were all there. Yeah.
Yeah, the Allied.
Yeah.
I guess it would be Allied.
And you said that was the first time they'd all been in the same place at the same time.
Yeah.
It was.
So they ended up in Kansas City of all places, right?
Right. Yeah. Who would have thunk? And then another highlight for me, and then we'll go on with the show. James is wearing the shirt from KC Beer Company. Our buddy took us there, and he had us sold when he said, "Hey, there's a spot. They do German styles." And as soon as the word German came out, James was like, "Let's go." He was ready. And sure enough, it was fantastic. And we got Chad. I don't know if he was their head brewer. He was certainly one of their lead brewers. He gave us a wonderful tour. We got to go see all the equipment of was it 150? How many barrel brew house do they have?
I don't know, but they brewed
120 barrel or 160 barrel.
They brewed 3 times a day. They had a night brew. Yeah, they brewed a lot. It was incredible.
It was
and they only use German fermentables. So when we went into their grain room, it was all German malt.
Everything German. Yeah, they have it shipped in on containers.
And how impressive was the cleanliness of that facility? Like they didn't, they didn't go out of their way they didn't know we were coming. They didn't have a tour set up. This was a random, like if someone knocked on my front door and said, "Hey, can I come in?" Right now, I'd say no. That's why I have the green screen up. My office is a wreck. Of course you can't come in. But they were like, "Yeah, we'll show you around. No big deal." It
was cleaner than our brew room. We'll say that.
Well, yeah. I mean, the bar is
and organized too.
It was so nice. Yeah,
I mean, they were fixing to do a brew, and they had the bags stacked perfectly in line. I mean, just that kind of attention to detail. I know it doesn't mean much, but I appreciated it. It was really nice.
Yeah, and I think we had probably told him 1,000 times on that little impromptu tour, like, dude, this is so nice. And he was like, "Yeah, it's okay." We're like, "No, you don't get it. Like, this is so nice and organized and clean. What's y'all's secret? And I think the secret is they're German, right? So like, they are on it. They have the cleanliness. It was a cool time. Trip to Kansas City, weight loss challenge update. I'm beating Todd. I felt like I gained a little bit of my second chin back, but you added your third or fourth, so I'm doing okay in the competition.
Beating Todd is unconfirmed. You have no confirmation of that.
I unfortunately, I'm hoping this isn't like a tortoise in the hare where I crushed you early in your spirits, and I think you're doing a rope-a-dope where you're letting me think and get comfortable with the idea that I'm going to beat you. And so, like last night,
that's exactly what I'm doing. You should try harder to lose more weight.
I hate you. Last night, I took my family to a local thing in San Marcos called Sights and Sounds. Todd is very familiar with it. And
was that funnel cake.
Funnel cake, the Dutch oven biscuits, the cotton candy. Then we went and ate at Herbert's there in San Marcos.
I love Herbert's.
So obviously the cheese enchilada dinner, the chips and queso, eating some puffy taco off their plate. Oh, Fat Josh, he made, it was Jekyll and Hyde last night.
Did you run this morning?
Of course I did. Of course
because you didn't run the morning before.
You want So let's just say this. We had a really good time on Wednesday night. We had a really good time. I think I lost count of the amount of old fashions I had, and
you had a lot, my friend. You had 4, I think.
I think I had 4 at just that one bar. We opened up at that one. The first place we went at Pierpont's.
No, you didn't have 4 at this.
No. I had 1 at Pierpont's. Right. And then I think I had 4.
You had 4 at the speakeasy.
I don't think you had. Did y'all have another one after I left?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh my God! Did you drink mine?
No, we left. No. James took a sip and went, "Nope."
Not for
me. I was done, man. I took a sip of that and I was like, "Oh, I'm done drinking. I'm going to bed now."
It was. We could have done a podcast from the speakeasy and had a real good time, and then listened to it the day after, and it would have been loud noise. My speech impediment worsening. Blah blah blah. It was a fun time. Thanks for reminding me, Todd. I woke up. I moved a little bit slower yesterday, but look at me.
I maybe didn't run. I was very disappointed.
I barely got to the airport. But anyway, real quick update on our Patreon. If you go to patreon.com/homebrew happy hour, you can see all the different levels of perks that we have. We've been sending out the recipe for this month. It's a dunkel. You're going to absolutely love it. It's delicious. And we have different perks of all levels that include things like shirts, hats. You can go to, again, patreon.com/homebrew happy hour. Our Q&A for this month, I didn't announce it until he had confirmed. He had confirmed right before we went to Kansas City, and then he dropped out. So I'm not going to throw him under the bus. We're going to get him in like May, June, or July is what it's lining up. So right now, guys, our December Q&A kind of dropped out. And so I was thinking I could either, we have a nice Rolodex of people that we could call on, or I was thinking, what if y'all don't have to do it, but what if I did a live brew day with my pop as the weekend after Christmas and do a live Q&A during that? Or I could come up there and we could do a live brew day and do a Q&A as the show. Like some kind of idea like that where it would be something special for Patreon and give us an excuse to brew. Either if we could figure...
I'm all ready for it.
Well, then maybe we'll work out logistics where we do it at the barn and do a brew day up there. And end the year on a high note and do a live Q&A at the same time, I think would be fun. And we could brew... Maybe we could brew an alt. We need an alt on tap. I'd like to do that.
I need anything on tap.
Yeah, you do need stuff on tap.
But remember, we're trying to brew different recipes every time.
I know. Okay. Well, we'll figure that out. And that's my crappy segue into I'm so excited about the Christmas party tomorrow. Speaking of good beer and having it on tap, the Sierra Nevada holiday celebration clone, the Northern English Brown Ale, the breakfast stout clone that I heard was just fabulous and tremendously good.
Best beer there.
The Comanche Kolsch, actually, I think is the best beer there. You've perfected the Kolsch. Then we have the Bohemian Pilsner,
Yeah.
Shut up. That's James Brew. And then I keep forgetting what's the last. Oh, Joe's Pale. Joe's Pale. I don't know how I keep forgetting it because the artwork I did for it is all Joe. So like I don't know how I keep forgetting it, but I'm very excited. I cannot wait. I'm going to take plenty of video at our company Christmas party for our Instagram. So if you go to our Instagram.com/homebrew happy hour, I think I have a prop up there. There we go. Go to Instagram.com/homebrew happy hour and follow all the fun. Okay, we do have a show lined up for y'all today. I have 2 questions, and they're both kind of in the same category, having to do with kegging stuff. So the first one comes from our friend Jimmy. He used the submission form at homebrewhappyhour.com. Jimmy wrote, "Hey guys, thanks for all the information on your podcast. I have a question regarding keg conditioning and naturally carbonating in the keg. If planning a big beer for aging in a keg, what are your thoughts on carbing in the keg with a sugar solution? Would the online calculator still work for sugar amounts?" Well, Jimmy, I know this could be a very short question, so I'm going to let Todd lead it and get the short part out of the way. What are your thoughts?
Absolutely. You can do the same thing as you would do with bottles. I mean, it's the same amount of sugar. So a lot of people, what they do is they mix the sugar in right before they bottle, and then they bottle. Well, that 5 gallons of sugar would be, or 5 gallons of sugar. That sugar that you put in 5 gallons should be the same amount that you would use for a keg. So absolutely, you can always naturally carbonate in a keg. I mean, you can certainly do that. I haven't done it, but maybe one time a long time ago. And the reason being is that I just, for the most part, first of all, I like instant gratification. When I finish the keg and when I finish the beer and it's in the keg, it's pretty much ready to drink at that point anyway, because I've already aged it in a secondary. So I like to get that sucker cold and force carbonate it and drink it. So that's one of the reasons. The other reason is, normally when you get that sugar in a bag from the homebrew store, most people just pour that amount in. Now there are calculators where you could change that around to change the carbonation level, but to me, it's more flexible to force carbonate because you can put the carbonation exactly where you want it for that style of beer. But having said that, I didn't really, I didn't read these beforehand like everybody else. So y'all were kind of talking about it. And it does kind of make sense in a way if you were going to leave a beer in for a long time in a keg to age, why not throw the sugar in there and carbonate it? Because you're not going to drink it anyway.
That is a good point. And you're right. I knew you didn't read it. I mean, you confessed that you didn't read it, but I did forget whenever we were on the phone, I did glance over that part. That's my fault, but you're right. Circumstantially speaking, it may make sense to condition and naturally carb in the keg. Like you said, we don't prefer it on 9 out of 9 times because we want to just go, drink, good. But like James, have you ever naturally carbed on anything? Because I don't even remember talking about your bottling days. Is naturally carbing a process you're
nothing that interests me at all. As you know, we tend to brew the lighter style, so sometimes if you add sugar to a lighter, like a light lager or a Kolsch, you can affect the flavor profile by adding that sugar. But, I told Todd earlier that I just don't want the mess in the keg. I just assume have it clean, no trub, and force carbonate it. But, he was asking about, is there a difference between the bottling and the kegging? I think there is a little bit. But the good news is if you go into brewersfriend.com, there's calculators for both bottling and carbing in the keg. Yeah, you can follow that. And what's cool about Brewers Friend is they break down how many volumes per style on that calculator. So it's a cool, easy tool to use. And if I was going to do that, I would definitely check that out.
I love it. I was just thinking too, I was like, man, I got to reach back out to Brewers Friend and get some money from them. We advertise for them so much. Yeah. I want that check, man. I'm going to blank out the words you just said. You're saying Brewers Friend. I'm going to beep, beep until I get that check coming in. All right, guys.
Yeah, if y'all check it out, it's pretty cool. And it's got a specific calculator listed for bottling, and then it's got one listed for keg. That's really neat.
That's kind of scary because the whole time I've brewed, whatever that bag has in it is what I've dumped in, and then I've bottled, and I'm done. I didn't even know there was a calculator. The calculator is what's ever in that bag for me.
Dude,
and everybody else, I did the same thing the time I did bottle, that one time with Clay.
I am so happy you admitted that first, because I feel like whenever I'm in the forums or on Reddit or wherever and there's this deep conversation and I'm like, oh my God, the rabbit trail goes so deep. I only know that, like, they're like, well, what do you do with this and this? I'm like, I do whatever James tells me to do. Or Joe. Yeah. Like when people, if people compliment that breakfast stout tomorrow at the party, Josh, you did such a good job. I'm going to be like, I followed instructions.
And you notice he didn't say my name. That's because in no part of his life does he ever do what I ask him to do.
Are you kidding me? I dropped out of college for you, man. When I remember your oldest daughter, right when she was her first semester. Your kids, by the way, they're crazy. Like she loads up the semester. Like she's doing well in school, but like when I was in college, I was like, 12 hours is perfect. And I think your daughter like just took it head on. Like I'm gonna do all, and she already had college credits going into school. Like I don't know whose kids they really are. I don't know if you've done a paternity test. I think Liz found someone else to father with. But anyway.
Somebody really smart, right?
Yeah, somebody really smart. But she was asking me advice one time. I take his oldest daughter, Caitlin, to breakfast every now and then because I live so close. And she was asking me for some surface level advice. And I was like, Caitlin, I dropped out. You don't want to hear, like, I have nothing to offer you. I was 27 credit hours away from graduating. You don't want this guy's advice. Like, I'll tell you the advice your father gave me. That college stuff's overrated. Come work for me.
Not for my kids, though. That's different. Yeah. I need them to make a good income.
That's right.
I love it.
Take care of Dad.
Take care of Dad. Yeah. I love it.
That's from they're my retirement plan.
That's smart.
My dad is smart enough to not have that with me and my brother. Like he has a real retirement plan. But yes. The calculators are fantastic. And, I joke about Brewer's Friend and giving us money, but no, we talk about them a lot. Like we talk about Imperial and other brands only because it really is incredible. The diverse and the sheer amount of calculators they have where, again, I don't even use a refractometer when we brew, as we should be. But if you want to break down as much as you want on the brew process, there's a calculator for it at Brewer's Friend. And I think it is brewersfriend.com/calculators. Or if you just go to the site, and they're free. That's the best part. You don't have to be a member.
Lots of great information that can eliminate some of the guesswork.
Yeah, I was trying to tell Lorena, hey, man, you should do a podcast for Brewer's Friend. She's such a wealth of info and they have so much stuff already on their site. I was like, why don't you do a Brewer's Friend podcast? Brad does a great one for Beersmith. And I was like, you definitely should. I think it'd be worth it. But y'all know Keith. It's just convincing him to want to to do it. But anyway, yes. I've never naturally carbed anything. Even when my bottling experience has been from transferring from a keg to a bottle. And I before going into aging stuff, because the second question kind of talks about that, so we can go down that rabbit hole then. But is there any reason why it is, air quoting here, better to naturally carb if I'm only bottling? Or is my whole process of, no, I get all the carbing done in the keg, then I use the Blickman beer gun and I put it in the bottles, and then I share them with friends. Is one method inherently better than the other, or is it sits one way, half a dozen the other?
I'd just assume force carb it in the keg and then use a dispensing device like the beer gun to fill a bottle if you're going to need to do that.
Todd, you on board with that?
I don't personally think that one way is better, but there are a lot of people out there that would argue with me on that and say that it's better to naturally carbonate with certain styles of beer.
Yeah.
I'll leave it up to, I think
it's a preference thing.
The bigger the show is getting, the more flooded my inbox gets with, they're nicer than they used to be. In the old days, the correction emails were like, can't believe I wasted my time listening to that was the newer ones are like, hey Josh, I think you might have messed up here when you said this. Like they're a lot nicer. They let me down easier. I appreciate y'all. In the early days, I was crushed sometimes. I'd be like, just okay, the show's over. I'm an idiot. The show's done. But yeah, let us know what you think. You can write into Joshua@homebrewhappyhour.com and let me know if you have a preference of if you bottle, do you naturally carb or do you prefer to get the carbing done in a keg and then transfer? I'm going to tell you again, as a man who is very efficient with his time, i.e. I am lazy, there is nothing easier. Like the bottling process was actually kind of enjoyable when we transferred it from the keg to the bottles with the beer gun. I'm a believer. Blickman's another company that doesn't give me a dime. You should, John. You should. But that beer gun was incredible. It was easy. Purge the bottle. Fill it up to the top. I purged the top a little bit. Crimp. We're done. It was easy. I loved it. Our buddy Jeff, I think, just got one, and he's been hassling me. He's like, I got to make a video on transferring from a keg to a bottle, like using a counter pressure bottle filler, using the beer gun, etc. I agree. We should do a video on this. But anyways, Jimmy, thank you for writing in. I'm going to go ahead and get to question number 2. Came from Troy, who also used the submission form at homebrewhappyhour.com. Troy wrote, does temperature affect conditioning? If so, what is optimal temperature for bottles and kegs? I'm going to, before obviously just jumping right in, I want to ask what I've never conditioned in the keg or bottle, obviously, and I've never aged.
Yeah, you have.
What have I aged?
I mean, don't you put stuff in secondaries and let it sit, right?
Oh, is that okay? I guess maybe you're right. I mean, I guess I was reading more into it. I assume you're right. I cold condition, if that's considered the same. I assumed he meant aging in regards to conditioning, but you're right. I misread that. We always do secondary with ours.
I mean, as soon as your fermentation's done, you don't just like keg the beer. You put it in a secondary. You let it. Yeah, I mean, you're doing that.
Okay,
I used to do that.
You're right. Yeah.
The minute it was done, it was in a keg, carbonated, and I was drinking it.
That's the life, though. But you're right. Well, if he is referring to just cold conditioning, obviously the colder the better in regards to conditioning for clarification and for removing proteins and whatever, right? Like the colder, I say the colder the better. Like we do it at whatever average fridge temperature is. What is that? Like 34, 30, 35?
Yeah, in the 30s.
Right. And but let's assume he may be also referring to like aging, because I didn't take that part of Jimmy's question because I conflated these two questions maybe inappropriately. But what if you're aging? Well, all right, let's just start from the beginning.
Like say like barrel aging. If you're
any aging,
if you put it in a barrel and you're trying to get the flavors out of the barrel. I mean, there's different ways you can age, but I mean, I'm just assuming that what he means is just letting the beer finish up a little bit. And some beers need a lot longer than other beers, depending on, with the styles. So, if you got a quad Belgian beer, you could age it a lot longer than a really light lager, which isn't really, or even another good example would be James's favorite style of beer, the IPA. I mean, if you have an IPA with a lot of dry hops,
just let it sit for 6 months.
Yeah, you really want to drink it fresh. You don't want to age it. So
because hop notes and flavors dissipate over time.
You guys, I'm about to blow your mind real quick. There is a Reddit thread. There's like a movement of people, and I don't want to say movement to make it seem like it's a lot. Maybe it is. Maybe my perception's bad today. There is a group of people that are aging New England IPAs. I don't get it. I don't get it. Maybe they're onto something. Maybe it's like a 4chan troll that has bled into the subreddit for homebrewing on Reddit. Maybe someone can explain it to me why it's a good thing to do. I don't know. I'm very simple. I've never been against letting everyone know that I'm stupid. I'm okay with it. But if you can explain to me why, and I'm talking like they're doing, some of them are like, 6 month, 9 month. That doesn't make sense to me. I mean, even
they got so much hops, don't know what to do with it, so that's what they do. They load it up with hops and then let it kind of evaporate away over time.
So my great grandmother, Mommy Wynn, always said, if you don't have something nice to say about somebody, you shouldn't say anything at all.
That does not keep you from saying, shut up. Are you kidding me?
I could take the high road once, couldn't I?
Whatever. If you're smoking, maybe, but you're not taking it normally. I think with, so let's just take it for face value then. Does temperature affect conditioning? Yes. It does.
Yes.
What is the general rule of thumb?
There's two things that I would add on that is if you're naturally carbonating in the keg or the bottle, you're going to want to watch the temperature on because there's going to be some yeast activity, so you don't want too terribly hot. If you're not doing that, I would always go on the colder side. So ales, I would be 65, 70 degrees, and then in lagers, I would be as cold to 32 as you can get. It'll help clarify it, and also the more complex the beer is, obviously, the longer it needs to condition. I just don't have the patience for that. So I think that's 3-4 weeks is tops for me, and I'm chomping at the bit to try it.
I think that's what we all share on this show is a lack of patience. It's like, I want to drink when we brewed it. Let's drink it. Let's drink it. Yeah. Conditioning is a subject. Maybe 2020 I'll get more into, but I can't think of a beer that I go, maybe a barley wine. Maybe that would be the style where I go,
definitely a barley wine.
I'm going to brew it today and I'm going to enjoy it at Christmas next year. Maybe that's the beer for me. I think Joe mentioned a barley wine him and his roommates brewed that they finally may have been 18 months later, and he said it turned out wonderful. Mead, I don't know if I'm crossing too many boundaries here, but mead is one that gets better the longer it goes. Am I right? Like Charlie's Recipe, isn't that a 1 year wait time, or the one in
when we talked to all those mead experts at the last Homebrew Con, they were saying that it wasn't as necessary as it used to be, that the ingredients are changed and the process has changed, and that you really don't have to. The reason they were doing it that way then had a lot to do with clarity and some other issues with the processes, and you don't have to age as much anymore. You still have to age some, of course, but you don't have to age it 18 months or anything like that.
That's right. I had totally forgotten that we had met.
Yeah, because you remember we were at the hotel.
Been drinking heavily.
That guy at the hotel was telling us about that.
I did. Yes, and I want to address what you just said, Todd. So were you? You are a bad influence.
Oh yeah. I remembered the story.
Yeah, that's true. Oh, ouch! You're right. That's true. And I remember you leaving early Wednesday night. Okay, I remember that.
Yeah. That was good on my part, huh? I was thinking that night.
Smart man. Is James cellaring? Cellaring.
You know what the German word for that is?
No, what is it?
Lagering.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah.
Ba-dum-bumps. Is that fall under conditioning then? I mean, in regards to like people not in Texas that have basements and they're like, I'm going to cellar this beer. Is your temperature chart? Yeah. It remains the same for that?
Well, I mean, it just depends on the beer that you've got. If I've got a lager, I'm not going to keep it at room temp, But yeah, cellaring's the same thing. Anytime you have it stored for an extended period of time, it's going to condition, whether condition's good or condition's bad. And temperature has a big role to play in that.
So do y'all want to do a brew day in early 2020, like a barley wine, and then we'll tap it for 2021 New Year?
I would do that. I think that'd be fun.
That's a great idea.
Okay, we'll brew it on. Well,
let's do that for our brew that we're gonna do. We could.
Yeah, because we never brewed one before.
Yeah, I've never brewed a barley wine. Todd, have you ever brewed one?
No.
There we go.
Never brewed one.
We have recipes for it that are on the site. James, can you tweet?
Can you imagine 15 gallons of barley wine?
It'd be a great Christmas party next year.
Yeah. And the next year after that.
And the next year.
We had a fantastic Christmas party. It ended at 7, though.
It started at 5:30, and everyone was asleep by 7. Yeah, I think that's a great idea. Let's do that. James, do you mind tweaking a recipe so we could brew it?
No, I'll put something together.
We're going to brew a recipe off of the website that we already have.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, we can do that.
Perfect. We got the American barley wine recipe at Keg Connection, so we could do that. We'll brew
Josh, I'm not sure you're getting this deal that we're doing now, where we're going to brew every recipe on the site. I'm not sure that.
Oh, you saw that? I didn't know you could see me.
Oh, yeah, I could see you.
Oh, anyway, gosh, that's awkward. But yes, back to the question. I didn't realize I was on the screen. Oh, that's awkward. Does temperature affect conditioning? What's the optimal temperature? Yes, it does affect it, Troy. Appreciate you writing in. I think, again, I took these questions because people, we've never taken one on this, and it's not a topic we've talked about, but maybe it is something. We'll brew the barley wine. We'll get into it. I don't know. Are we going to store it in a temperature control? Like, are we going to keep it at that cooler that's downstairs at the warehouse?
Well, let's research it.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now.
Because I don't know if we should keep it that cold the whole time. I mean, I don't know. I've never brewed one. I don't have any knowledge on it. It's something we're going to have to determine.
So it looks like 68 degrees.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
we could leave that for a year in our in the cooler we use to store kegs that are done.
Perfect.
Because it's got plenty of space in it. Yeah.
Perfect. And we just knock it up and up to the 60s. Because what is it right now? It's do you have a temperature controller on it, Todd, or do you just
yes.
Okay. Oh yeah, because it's a
otherwise
freezer.
It would freeze.
Okay. Whatever. That's not the dumbest thing I've said today. Just the dumbest thing I've said while having the record button on. So yes, Troy, thank you so much for submitting your question. Jimmy as well. This is a great reminder that if you do submit a question and we take it on air, you get a $25 gift certificate to the show's sponsor, which this week is keggconnection.com. So again, thank you so much for submitting it. You can get that submitted at homebrewhappyhour.com. Click on the submit a question link at the top of the page, or you can also call or text them into 325-305-6107. Guys, I really appreciate y'all's time. I had such a good time with y'all in Kansas City, and I'm genuinely excited about the Christmas party.
It was a blast. And you know what? The Christmas party is going to be fun. We got a lot of beer. We got lots of barbecue. It's going to be fun.
Good.
Oh, I'm ready.
Good food, good beer, good people. We're going to have like the whole company there. Some of Todd's friends will be there as well, and family. I love bringing my girls up to the ranch. I'm very excited about it. So I will see you guys tomorrow for the party, and I appreciate y'all taking the time to do the show with me.
Thanks.
You bet. We'll see you.
All right, and that will do it for this episode of the Homebrew Happy Hour. If you have a question you'd like us to discuss on a future episode, go to homebrewhappyhour.com and click on the submit a question link at the top of the page. Or now you can call or text them in by using 325-305-6107. Thank you to our show sponsor, keggconnection.com, for supporting us and the home brewing community. Enjoy the holiday deals at keggconnection.com and spread the holiday cheer by getting some homebrew supplies for you, your loved ones, or whoever. On behalf of Todd Burns, James Carlson, and the Pearl Media Network, I'm Joshua Stubing. Thank you for listening.
This program is made possible by the checkbook of Mr. Todd Burns and by contributions to our newly launched Patreon by viewers like you. Visit patreon.com/homebrewhappyhour and join our community. Thank you.